The gymnasium shimmered with strings of golden fairy lights, swaying lightly from the rafters as if stars themselves had been captured and hung above. A disco ball rotated slowly, scattering 1,000 fractured reflections across the polished wooden floor. The air buzzed with music, thumping bass that made the ground vibrate, and laughter that carried the kind of nervous excitement only high school dances could hold. Girls twirled in sparkling dresses, boys straightened their ties and blazers, and groups clustered together, gossiping about who was dancing with whom. But not everyone was swept up in the glittering chaos. In the farthest corner of the gym, away from the noise and the crowd, sat Clara. Her auburn hair was tied back in a loose braid that had already begun to fall apart. She wore a simple gray dress, not flashy, not shimmering, not meant to draw attention. On her lap rested a book, the same one she carried almost everywhere. Her eyes scanned the page, though she wasn't really reading. She was simply hiding from a world that never seemed to understand her. Clara had always been the quiet girl. The one who blended into the background, never raised her hand in class, never laughed too loudly, never fought back. And because she was quiet, the world had labeled her. They called her the ghost. She wasn't invisible, exactly. In fact, she was known by everyone, but only as a whisper, a passing shadow, a target too easy to ignore. Across the gym, 4 boys stood with mischievous grins plastered across their faces. They were the kind of boys who believed cruelty was currency, who thought making others laugh at someone's expense would crown them kings of the night. Their ringleader, Jason, tilted his head toward Clara. "Look at her," he sneered. "Sitting there like she doesn't exist. Tonight's the night we bring the ghost back to life." The others laughed, shoving each other's shoulders, their eyes sparkling with anticipation. "Let's make her cry," one of them said. "Yeah," another added, "the dance will be her nightmare." And so, like predators scenting prey, they began their slow walk across the gym. Students noticed. A ripple went through the crowd, a murmur of curiosity, because everyone knew when Jason and his friends were on the move, trouble was never far behind. Clara's fingers tightened around her book when she sensed the shadows fall over her. She didn't look up immediately, hoping, praying, they would pass her by. But Jason's voice, sharp and cruel, cut through the music. Well, if it isn't our little ghost. What are you doing here, Clara? Nobody invited you to our party." His friend snatched the book from her lap and tossed it into the air. The pages fluttered like broken wings before it hit the floor. Clara's heart squeezed. She wanted to grab it, to protect the only thing that made her feel safe, but Jason stepped in front of her, blocking the way. "Come on," he taunted, "dance with us. Don't ghosts float around, anyway?" The boys laughed, their voices echoing louder than the music. The crowd turned to watch. Phones came out, recording. This was the entertainment they didn't know they had been waiting for. For a brief moment, Clara wanted to disappear, to sink through the floor and never be seen again. But then, something stirred deep inside her. A memory. A voice. "When words fail, Clara, let your body speak. Dance, my love. Dance." It was her mother's voice. A woman who had once filled rooms with elegance, who had danced with such beauty that even silence seemed to applaud her. Clara had grown up dancing with her mother in the living room, spinning barefoot to the soft hum of old records. But after her mother's illness took her away, Clara had stopped. The music had died with her, until tonight. Slowly, Clara rose from her chair. The boys grinned wider, thinking she was falling into their trap. Jason grabbed her wrist, trying to drag her toward the center of the gym, but Clara pulled her hand free, not violently, but with quiet strength. She walked past him, past the crowd, and stepped into the open space of the dance floor. The room hushed. Whispers darted like fireflies. What's she doing? Is she actually going to dance? The DJ, sensing something, switched the track. The thumping pop music faded, replaced by something slower, richer, a melody that seemed to hold its breath. Clara closed her eyes. For the first time in years, she let herself remember. And then, she moved. At first, it was simple. A step. A turn. But then her arms rose, her body flowed, and suddenly, Clara wasn't just moving, she was telling a story. A story of grief, of silence, of pain that had been bottled up for too long. Her dress spun with her, creating circles of light that reflected in the awestruck eyes around her. Each movement was precise, yet free, controlled yet bursting with emotion. The laughter died. The bullies stopped in their tracks. Phones that had been raised to capture humiliation were now recording something extraordinary. The gymnasium transformed. It wasn't a school dance anymore. It was a stage, and Clara was its star. Her steps echoed with defiance. Her turns whispered resilience. Her leaps carried the weight of every moment she had been overlooked, ignored, or mocked. By the time the final note faded, Clara stood in the center of the gym, breathless, her cheeks flushed, her braid half undone. For a heartbeat, there was silence, so heavy it felt like the world itself was holding its breath. Then, applause. Thunderous, unstoppable applause. Students rose to their feet, cheering, shouting her name. Even teachers clapped, some with tears glistening in their eyes. Jason and his friends stood frozen, their plan crumbled into dust. They had wanted to break her. Instead, she had broken free. Clara bent down, picked up her book, and quietly walked back toward her corner. She didn't bow, didn't smile smugly, didn't gloat. She didn't need to. She had said everything she needed to without a single word. The days that followed were different. People who had once ignored her now stopped to say hello. Some asked her about dancing. Others smiled when they passed her in the hallway. She wasn't invisible anymore. But the most important change came when a group of girls approached her one afternoon in the dance studio. "Clara," one of them said shyly, "will you teach us? We want to dance like you." At first, Clara hesitated. Doubts gnawed at her. Who was she to teach anyone? But then she remembered her mother's voice, soft and warm, "When you share your gift, Clara, it never dies." She smiled, nodded, and for the first time, stepped into a role she had never imagined for herself, a guide, a mentor, a leader. And from that day, the ghost girl became something else entirely, a light that inspired others. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Soul Touch Stories. Every bit of your support helps keep stories like this alive, stories that remind us of the hidden strength within those we least expect. As for Jason and his friends, they never truly lived down that night. For once, they were the ones ignored, their laughter drowned out by the memory of Clara's dance. But Clara never sought revenge. She didn't need to. Because the truth is, strength doesn't always shout. Sometimes, it whispers through the silence. Sometimes, it shines in the quietest corners. And sometimes, the girl you once called a ghost turns out to be the brightest star in the room.